Namaste. I'm Dr. Robert, and today my subject on 5-ish Minutes with Dr. Robert is ritual. In particular, ritual for the purpose of connecting to the unseen world, spiritual or religious ritual. And ritual of any kind can be beneficial and can be detrimental. For example, in Ayurveda, we have rituals that are involved in your daily routine. These are things that you get into the habit of doing because they're things that are valuable for keeping your body properly maintained. In a similar way, when you have a ritual that, let's say, involves worshiping the 5 elements, this is something that reminds you every day that it is valuable to align with the 5 elements, not just paying attention to them in manifested form in your organism, but also to them in abstracted form as those substrates that make up the entire universe. And there's value in performing this in a ritual fashion because that ritual acts as a container in which your attention and therefore your prana can be directed in the direction you wish it to go. And because of the positive aspect of tumus, as you do this repeatedly, that causes the container to become more tangible, and it facilitates the channeling of that energy and attention ever more effectively. Of course, if you apply too much tumus or you get too constricted in your vision, then what will happen is you will narrow it eventually, and even though it appears that you're getting good results, it will have become so narrowed that there will be much less actual throughput of energy. So if the ritual is valuable, but having it become unconscious and automatic is not valuable, in the same way that it's been said many times, if simply repeating mantras mindlessly would encourage you to become enlightened, then all the parrots owned by all the Brahmins in the world should be enlightened already, because that's what they've been doing. So what we have to do to make ritual actually valuable is, number one, to always remain mindful, and in fact become even more mindful every time we perform the ritual, understanding that if we become less mindful, it's going to make it much more unconscious and therefore less valuable for us. And also to be aware as far as possible of the differences in space, if you're moving around, but which may not be the case, but otherwise in time, because differences in time are happening all the time. And every day the moon is in a different nakshatra, a different tithi, different place in the sky. The grahas, the planets, are always moving. And that is always slightly changing the way in which the energy and the awareness is moving in you and in the rest of the world. I was very fortunate earlier in my life to know one of the real, authentic, genuine vedacharyas in India. His name was Tatacharya Agnihotram Ramanujam. He was from Tamil Nadu in South India. He was well over 100 when he died. And he was extraordinarily eminent in his field. He knew much of the Veda. He could recite much of the Veda by heart. His task when I knew him was to conduct Vedic sacrifices for 2 of the Vallabhacharyas, who are very eminent spiritual lineage holders in India, to perform Vedic sacrifices for them. And when we were discussing once the question of the Vedas, he said basically he liked to say that performing a Vedic sacrifice was ritualizing. That is, you had a number of different possible things that you could do, and you had to examine who you were doing them for, the time in which you were doing it, the place in which you were doing it, and the reason for which you were doing it, and then select from all the different possibilities and put them together in a particular way in order to create a ritual, even though you had performed all these different pieces many times to make them second nature. Each sacrifice was different because they were always added together in different ways. They were always slightly different in their alignment, and they always produce a slightly different result because the ritual was still living and not something that had been ossified and completely concretized into a dead form. So please make use of ritual and keep that ritual always dynamic and living within you. Om.